Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. There's been some very interesting news coming out this week and last week that the trades and the shill access media sites are quietly ignoring because guess what? They don't actually want to report it because it would very likely only further upset Disney and Lucasfilm. And what news could this possibly be? The long-awaited Nielsen viewership numbers are starting to come out for The Acolyte. But before proceeding, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this video, please share the video on social media, please subscribe to support this channel, and please press the bell to receive notifications. Thanks! Nielsen doesn't report streaming viewership numbers for as much as 4 to 5 weeks after something has actually premiered. And in the case of The Acolyte, because of its release date and the minimum 4-week delay in Nielsen's weekly reporting, by the time viewership data is included in Nielsen's data charts, it's actually 5 weeks old due to the time periods that are used. For example, last week was when Nielsen revealed viewership data for the week of June 3rd through the 9th, which was when the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte premiered. And because The Acolyte premiered towards the beginning of the reporting period, it was essentially 5 weeks old as of last week. And this week, the Nielsen data for the week of June 10th through the 16th came out, which covers episode 3, and this is also the week that the final 8th episode premieres. So the viewership data is 5 weeks behind. So let's take a look at the actual top 10 streaming viewership numbers as reported by Nielsen for the week of June 3rd through the 9th of 2024. In the overall top 10 streaming numbers, there's only a single entry for Disney+, and that's for their acquired show Bluey, which was streamed for a total of 1,145,000,000 minutes. And the least viewed show in the overall top 10 is Young Sheldon, which was streamed for a total of 786 million minutes. And The Acolyte isn't on this list, but maybe it will be in Nielsen's top 10 original streaming shows list, so we'll switch over to that. And lo and behold, there it is in 7th place overall on this chart, but its streaming numbers are rather low at 488 million minutes viewed. So just for that week, Bluey and its 1,145,000,000 minutes was streamed more than 2.3 times as much as the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. And Young Sheldon, which is the 10th most streamed movie or show overall, was viewed more than 1.6 times as much as compared with The Acolyte. And if we look at the streaming minutes for the acquired shows, Reba is the least viewed of the top 10 at 632 million minutes viewed, which is still a lot more than The Acolyte. And just for shits and giggles, let's take a look at the top 10 streamed movies, and we find that for that same week, the Japanese monster movie Godzilla Minus One was also streamed more than The Acolyte from its 3rd position in that list. Now, to truly appreciate just how few people there are who are watching The Acolyte, we need to compare its Nielsen viewership numbers for its 2 premiere episodes with the similar Nielsen viewership numbers for the premieres of the other Star Wars shows. And with the exception of the first season of The Mandalorian, I have those numbers, which I will now show in this chart. So in terms of total minutes viewed for the premieres of each of these series, the 488 million minutes that The Acolyte has is only larger than one other previous Star Wars series, the 389 million minutes viewed for the premiere of The Book of Boba Fett back in December of 2021. But the total minutes viewed for the premieres of The Mandalorian Season 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, The Mandalorian Season 3, and Dave Filoni's live-action Ahsoka series are all higher than those for The Acolyte. Of course, something else that needs to be taken into consideration when doing a comparison like this is to estimate how many people were actually watching. Now, the most common way that many YouTubers use to try to estimate how many views that a show's total viewed minutes represents, they divide the total number of viewed minutes by the content's actual runtime. But the biggest problem with this approach is that it assumes that every viewer watched the content for its entire duration, and obviously that's not going to be the case because not everyone will have done that. So since it's obvious that the average number of minutes viewed per viewer is going to be less than the content's actual runtime, the total number of viewers is going to be a lot higher than that simple division. If we assume that the number of minutes viewed by all viewers probably follows a normal distribution curve, and if the average number of viewed minutes is around half the content's duration, then almost regardless of the standard deviation, the total number of viewers may be closer to double the number obtained by simply dividing the total number of minutes viewed by the content's runtime. But since we don't know what the actual number of minutes viewed per viewer is, the best that we can do is to create a range wherein we know that the number of views cannot be less than the quotient obtained by dividing the total number of minutes viewed by the content's runtime. So that effectively forms the lower end of the range that we want. But the upper end of that range may be double that quotient because it would represent the total number of viewers who only watched half of the content's runtime. But is that a reasonable estimation? Well, the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte have a total runtime of around 80.8 minutes. If we divide Nielsen's reported 488 million minutes viewed by that 80.8 minutes of runtime, we get a value of around 6.04 million viewers. And if we double that value, that creates an estimated range of viewers between 6.04 million and 12.08 million, implying that the average minutes viewed per viewer may be more than half of the content's runtime, but possibly not less than that. And on June 10th, Disney reported that there were around 11.1 million views during the week that The Acolyte premiered. And that reported number falls within our estimated range of 6.04 million to 12.08 million views. Now, this same article also reports that when Ahsoka premiered last year, it had around 14 million views in its first 5 days. The total number of minutes viewed that Nielsen reported last year for the premiere of Ahsoka was around 829 million minutes. And if we divide the 829 million minutes viewed by the show's premiere runtime of 96.6 minutes for the show's first 2 episodes, that gives us a value of around 8.6 million views. And if we double that number, we get a value of around 17.1 million views. So again, the reported 14 million views falls between the estimated range of 8.6 million to 17.1 million views. Now, that doesn't mean that this estimated methodology is 100% accurate, but it at least gives us a better idea of what the total number of views might be. But by using the reported views for the premieres of Ahsoka and The Acolyte, we can estimate what the average number of minutes viewed per viewer is by dividing the total number of minutes viewed by the reported number of views. And when we do that for Ahsoka, we get an approximate average number of minutes viewed per viewer of 59.21 minutes, which is 61.3% of the show's premiere runtime. And for The Acolyte, we get an approximate average number of minutes viewed per viewer of 43.96 minutes, which is 54.43% of the show's premiere runtime. So not only did the premiere of The Acolyte have fewer views than last year's premiere of Ahsoka, the amount of the premiere's content that people watched was also lower. So people who watched The Acolyte couldn't get through as much of its content as compared with Ahsoka. But do the trades or shill access media sites actually report on what the numbers mean? Of course not, because it would put Disney, The Acolyte, and the show's woke content under a bad light, and they would much rather report only part of the facts so that they can gaslight their readers. This is why when people are sworn in to testify during a trial, that they have to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. In other words, half-truths are not the truth, in spite of what the trades and shill media sites want you to believe. And Nielsen's viewership data for the week of June 10th through the 16th was shared this week. And not surprisingly, the viewership numbers for The Acolyte dropped to 370 million minutes viewed. Part of that is due to the fact that only one episode premiered that week, episode 3. You remember, that's the one that introduced the lesbian space witches and their awful chant.
Power 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
In terms of comparing its number with the preceding Star Wars shows on Disney+, it was the least viewed second week for any Star Wars show on the service. And when combined with its total minutes viewed for its premiere week, it's also the least viewed of any Star Wars show. Now, for anyone who believes that the very low audience scores for The Acolyte on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Metacritic are inaccurate, ask yourselves whether more or fewer people would be watching with very bad audience scores. Is it fair to say that the worse the audience scores are, the smaller the audience is likely going to be? You see, ladies and gentlemen, there is no organized review bombing campaign taking place as the trades and shill media sites want you to believe. No, the fact of the matter is, very simply, that The Acolyte is an awful show and its very low viewership numbers go hand in hand with its very low audience scores. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.